Hello everyone, today I want to briefly talk about this weapon. I'm going to use some footage of Shadow for the background because I don't play this weapon, but I want to talk a little bit about Edit. Mostly because it's been very clear over the past 5 months since the last patch that Edit and Pen are basically dead even. In Japan it is basically alternating between results, there's no clear winner. Here in the West we got maybe 2 top level Edit players, maybe? And there's a bit of a gap, so I want to do a small little informative video on the heavy edit splatling, just real quick going over what makes it good and most importantly what's important when building comps around it. So I think one thing to get out of the way with heavy edit before we get too far into it is heavy edit is not a backline. It can still paint a lot more safely for it's cooler than something like Zap. It still can sometimes be hanging back, but it is not an anchor. It has less range than Nautilus, and you only really don't notice that because of the strafe speed. But Edit has a few different things that are beneficial to it. It is much harder to rush down than Pen. It's much more self-sufficient. It's better both with and against HP specials, because it actually can shred HP specials, and it also uses them. A Pen can't really do much with a bubble. It overlaps with Crab a little bit. Edit is totally fine using both of them, and it also, of course, has very good DPS. Edit's uptime is insane. You get 5 full charges on a full ink tank, so you basically are just always charging and shooting around. The charge time is really the only downtime of the weapon you have. The paint is a little bit better at close range, even if you have less distance paint. So, a bunch of different self-explanatory stuff. Edit's, of course, just very solid stat-wise. Being based on mini splatling is already going to be a good start. There's more I could go into it, though. All of that, but how do you build around this? What do you want with it? So, I think there's one key thing about edit comps that makes it a little more different, is that edit comps are more reliant on having longer range weapons in its composition than Pen comps. So, for example, with Pen, if you play, Min Splash Min Splash Dually, not Min Splash, Min Splash Bucket or something, it's probably fine. With Edit, I don't think you can get away with that combination of weapons. I think that my general rule is that Edit should not be the longest range weapon on the team comp. So there's 5 main answers to what you run with it right now. 2 Slayers, 1 Support, and 2 Anchors that I think are worth talking about. So let's start with the Slayers. That is Squeezer and Stamper. Now, Squeezer, I think, is probably a little more synergistic with it. Being able to use Wall is very good with it. I think Zuka helps a lot with range disadvantage, since it's, can target Pencil or HP specials from a further range than it. But Squeezer's a little bit selfish, it doesn't paint as much. But for the most part, it gets the job done, really. I mean, it's like a very synergistic combo with Edit, just on the fact that it can cover more easily with Wall to be able to stand against longer range options. And then Stamper is a little more common, mostly because Stamper is just amazing right now. And Stamper also comes with more range than Edit, and actually more range than Squeezer, or notable now since the patch change. It comes with burst damage, and Zip is also very good at dealing with range disadvantage. So both of these fairly similar mid-range aggressive tools that you can use. The support is something we haven't seen in a while, and that's Flingza Roller. I've talked about Flingza before, but I think Flingza Edit excels in anti-dive, having both Flingza and Edit that are very good at defending themselves from things like sword casters or dualies going in, makes them very good against that style of play. Missiles is amazing with backless comps. Really, we just don't see it as much because of the weapons it's on, so being able to have that is really good. But Flingza is kind of a little bit harder to run right now, mainly because Flingza Roller is just not as strong as something like Splash. V-Splash is a very good support role. And while we're on V-Splash with Edit is also kind of fine. I wouldn't say it covers the range problem, but Burst and Crab are both great right now. Works very well with Edit. Edit typically does want a Crab to have some kind of temporary anchor. So that weapon is fine. But yeah, Flingza we haven't seen as much lately, but still I would say is a good option to consider. Still does help with the range. So you do something like Bucket Decab or Bucket Stamper alongside of Flingza would be some of the main things you do. Weapons that can combo off the 40 damage vertical flick help a bit. But for the most part, it's a fairly self-explanatory combo. And that brings me to the most recent combination we've seen with heavy edit splatling, which is Rapid Blaster Pro Deco. So, about Rapid Pro Deco, we saw this in Area Cup more recently. It wasn't played the whole time. It was Rapid Pro Deco and S-Blast alternating based off the map. It was Lobster playing it, of course. Alongside Splatoon, Stamper, Splash-O-Matic, and Edit Splatling. So that triple burst, that has become more common lately. But Rapid Pro Deco instead of the S-Blast for long-range maps. Anyway, continuing on. I think that the combination is kind of interesting. Rapid struggles with being rushed down, something that Edit doesn't struggle with, of course. And Rapid synergizes very well with Sword and very well with the burst bombs. I think Rapid Pro Deco is honestly kind of making a little bit of a resurgence lately, just because there's more and more chip damage. I think that's kind of the main development. Like, we know a lot of the fighting weapons that are good, but I think the development has mostly just been a lot more burst bombs, a lot more chip damage this month. So, I think Rapid is amazing to work with all that. A lot of things that can, you know, just help the weapon with what it's trying to do. So I think it's a very obvious win for it. Whale is very good at range disadvantage, similar to Missile. Not as strong, but still very good. You'll get more of them. Obviously, on smaller maps, I don't think it's as good as having another fighting weapon. It is a little risky having only one real midline fighting weapon, though Edit's more aggressive potential definitely leans to it. But it's still pretty new. We haven't seen as much Rapid with Edit, but I do like the combination if it's paired with Burst Bomb stuff. But, I mean, in that case, you're pairing with Stamper anyway, so now you have two weapons to cover the range disadvantage, which isn't a bad thing. It's just saying that it's not, like, as necessary for this job. But I figured I'd bring it up. And then there's one weapon that we haven't really seen as much with Edit lately, but it's been a pretty known combo in top level for a bit now, which is Custom Explosher. Now, full disclosure, we don't really see much C-Explo, and I don't really see it competing with Rapid Pro Deco very much. But it has some benefits. It has better paints. It's harder to rush down because of triple splashdown and splash wall. And it has a little bit better AoE, since it has a larger blast radius, and it can arc around cover similar to Buckets, so there's some benefits there. But C-Explo is relatively unproven, relatively not common in any way, so it's kind of hard for me to say a lot about it, other than in theory it looks good. It is still slower. Lockout is something that can be pretty concerning. It puts a lot of pressure on your two short-range weapons, or mid-range weapons, whatever exactly you pair with it. I do think C-Expo also benefits of all of the chip damage going on, just like Rapid does, but I don't think it benefits as much from it. I would say Rapid is still a bit of a bigger winner from all of this. But that's all the combinations I think you can run with it. In my opinion, the current meta is getting, you know, a little more chip damage focused, a little less HP specials, but Crab is still pretty relevant. Bubble is not uncommon by any means, and we're seeing more Booyah Bomb mainly as another HP special. And Booyah Bomb is something that Pen isn't great at shredding either. It also has negative damage multipliers into, like it does with Crab. And so I think that's really good for Edit, of course. I think it excels into that. I think it's good into specific matchups. Like, I think it's honestly pretty good at dealing with S-Blast, for instance. Its strafe speed makes Stamper have a hard time with the Charge Slash. A lot of different benefits. And I do hope this weapon sees more use, because I do think it is very underrated. I saw Bursty talking about it as well, saying that Heavy Edit is, like, underused right now, and the weapon is very overtuned, and I agree. It is very overtuned, very strong weapon. And I just hope we see more of it. I don't think Edit comps are that different compared to Pen, but it would just be interesting to break up the monotony, because I think for more casual viewers, Pen is probably still one of the more hated things. I think at a top level, people don't really care as much, because Pen is more interactive now. It doesn't spam as much, and like it's led to overall matches are still very fun to watch. But I think having a bit more of an even mix would be healthy, and from what I've seen, I don't think that there's going to be a gap increasing on these weapons anytime soon. In Japan, they seem very even with each other, so I don't think it's going to change too much, and hopefully we see more edits. I hope this video was able to be helpful in terms of just going over the very basics of edit comps and some of the things it excels at. Again, this was just meant to be a very small look into this weapon, and thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see what happens in the patch coming up soon.